Have you ever looked around and realized the phone doesn't ring as much as it used to? The invitations slow down, the visitors become fewer, and suddenly, quiet becomes your new normal. At first it might feel like something is missing, like you're supposed to have a house full of chatter or a diary packed with social plans. But what if I told you that this new quiet isn't a loss? It's actually a gift. You see, there's a deep and often overlooked beauty in solitude, especially after 70. Society tells us that we're supposed to have a big group of friends to be happy, that loneliness is something to fear. But here's the truth. After a certain age, you start to realize that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It can actually mean being free. Free to think clearly, to explore who you really are without the noise of other people's opinions. Now, don't get me wrong, companionship is a wonderful thing, but so is inner peace, and the two don't always come from the same place. In this video, we're going to talk about 6 powerful reasons why you might not need as many friends after 70, and how embracing solitude can help you feel more grounded, more in control, and even happier. Let's begin with something many seniors struggle with but don't often talk about: the emotional drain of one-sided relationships. You've probably had at least one friend who only calls when they need something. Or maybe they gossip, complain, or leave you feeling more tired than uplifted. At this stage in life, your energy is too precious to be wasted on people who don't value you equally. You deserve peace, not pressure. Letting go of those kinds of relationships doesn't make you bitter. It makes you wise. It's not about being unfriendly. It's about being kind to yourself. There's something very empowering about realizing that you don't have to explain yourself to anyone anymore. You've lived a full life. You've raised families, worked hard, survived loss, celebrated wins. You've earned the right to focus on what really matters to you. And sometimes that means choosing silence over small talk, or a quiet morning walk over a noisy coffee date. Another beautiful shift that happens when you spend more time alone is that you start hearing your own thoughts more clearly. For decades, we listened to everyone else: our kids, our boss, our neighbors, our friends. But when things quiet down, you finally have space to ask yourself, what do I want today? Maybe it's a slow breakfast with your favorite music. Maybe it's finally starting that painting you always put off. Maybe it's reading a book just because it makes you feel good, not because it's what the book club picked. That freedom is a powerful thing. And here's something else you might not expect. The more comfortable you become in your own company, the more others start to notice your confidence. When you're not constantly chasing connection or approval, it shows. You become someone who radiates calm. That energy is magnetic. It draws the right kind of people toward you, people who respect your time, your space, and your spirit. That kind of relationship, even if it's just 1 or 2 people, is far more valuable than a long list of shallow friendships. You may also start to find that you have more time and energy for yourself. Think about it. When you're not stretching yourself thin, trying to keep up with social calendars or people who drain you, you can focus that energy inward. And that's when real healing happens. You can take care of your health, get more sleep, eat better, and even grow spiritually. That kind of self-focus isn't selfish. It's smart. At this point in life, you should be your top priority. So instead of wondering why some friends have faded or why your phone is quieter, try asking this: what is this solitude giving me that company never could? You might just find that what feels like a loss is actually a doorway to discovering the most peaceful, powerful, and purposeful version of yourself. And if this message speaks to you, even just a little, I invite you to stick around for the rest of this journey. There's more to explore, more truth to uncover, and more reasons to celebrate this stage of life, not in spite of solitude, but because of it. And before you go, if you found value in this message, I'd be truly grateful if you like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's a small action, but it means the world, and it helps us continue creating thoughtful content just for you. Now let's talk about something that often catches people by surprise: how solitude can actually spark creativity. You might think that creativity is only for artists or musicians, but in truth, we are all creative. It just takes space, stillness, and a little quiet for that spark to show up. And after 70, many people finally have the time and freedom to listen to that creative voice they silenced for decades. Maybe you used to love gardening but gave it up when life got busy. Maybe you've always wanted to write your story, pick up a paintbrush, or try cooking new recipes from around the world. Being alone gives you the time to reconnect with that playful, curious part of yourself. And the best part? You're not doing it for anyone else's approval. You're doing it for you, and that's the purest kind of joy there is. The world tends to measure a person's value by how many people they're surrounded by. But here's a secret. Real value doesn't come from how many people you have in your life. It comes from how much peace you have within it. When you reach a stage where your own company feels just as fulfilling as someone else's, you've tapped into a kind of self-respect and wholeness that many people spend a lifetime chasing. You might be surprised by how much your mental health improves when you let go of the pressure to be socially busy. Constant interaction can be overwhelming. Always being on for others, always planning the next get-together, it can start to feel like a performance rather than pleasure. Solitude allows your mind to breathe. It reduces stress. You're not walking on eggshells or trying to please anyone. You can rest. You can think. You can just be. And in that space, a new kind of relationship begins to form. Your relationship with yourself. This is where the real shift happens. You start to notice your thoughts more clearly, recognize patterns in your emotions, and make peace with your past. There's a quiet wisdom that begins to surface, one that says, "You've been through a lot. And look at you. You're still standing." You begin to see your life not as a list of people who came and went, but as a personal journey filled with lessons, growth, and triumph. What solitude offers is something deeper than any friendship ever could. Self-trust. When you're alone and at peace, you begin to rely on your own instincts again. You make decisions that feel right for you, not because someone else said so. You create boundaries that protect your energy. And you finally give yourself permission to live life on your terms, without guilt, without explanation. Now let me be clear. This doesn't mean you shut the world out completely. It simply means you become more selective about who and what you allow into your space. Instead of chasing after old friendships that no longer serve you, you open the door only to what feels genuine. Sometimes the best relationships at this stage are not with old friends, but with new people who meet you exactly where you are now, calmer, wiser, and more whole. And here's a beautiful thing that happens when you embrace solitude with an open heart. You stop fearing it. You stop associating alone time with sadness or lack. You begin to cherish it. You start looking forward to your morning tea in silence, your afternoon walk where you hear your own footsteps, your evening routine that's done at your pace. It becomes a ritual, not a punishment. So if you've been feeling like something's wrong because you don't have a full social calendar anymore, let me gently remind you, nothing is wrong. In fact, everything might finally be right. You've been given the gift of time, the gift of space, the gift of yourself. And that is something not everyone gets the chance to fully appreciate. You don't need to explain this shift to anyone. You don't need to justify it. You just need to feel it, to live it, and to know that your worth was never about how many friends you had. It was always about how deeply you could connect to your own soul. If this message speaks to your heart, please do take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know, and it keeps this space alive for thoughtful people just like you. Let's keep walking this path of wisdom together. There's still so much more to share. Let's take this even deeper now, because one of the most overlooked blessings of this stage in life is the freedom to finally listen to your own voice, uninterrupted. For decades, life was full of noise, family needs, work schedules, social obligations. Now that noise has softened, and in its place is something rare and powerful: clarity. With fewer people around, you start to hear yourself again, your real self, not the version you had to be for your boss, your spouse, your children, or even your friends, but you, in your raw, honest, beautiful truth. You start asking different questions. What brings me joy now? What do I want to learn, experience, or create? You begin to rewrite the story of your life on your terms, with no one else's pen. And this brings us to one of the most profound truths about solitude. It gives you the space to heal. Emotional wounds, regrets, unresolved memories, they all have a way of surfacing when the world gets quiet. But instead of seeing that as something to fear, it can actually be the start of something very sacred. Healing is a form of self-respect. It says, my pain matters, my story matters, and I deserve peace. When you stop filling every moment with distraction or the need to be with others, you allow the heart to breathe, and that's where real transformation begins. Many people think aging is about loss, losing youth, losing friends, losing relevance. But solitude teaches you that aging can also be about gaining self-awareness, gaining wisdom, gaining peace. It's a season of becoming, not disappearing. And when you stand fully in that space, you stop trying to hold on to friendships that were never truly fulfilling in the first place. In fact, let's be honest, some friendships only survived because of convenience. You worked together, or lived in the same neighborhood, or your children were friends. But once those ties disappear, you start to see which relationships were rooted in real connection, and which ones were simply circumstantial. And that realization, it can be liberating. It allows you to stop chasing, stop pleasing, and start choosing only what nurtures your spirit. And maybe now, instead of filling your time with shallow chatter, you fill it with meaning. You journal, you read, you take long walks where your thoughts become your companions. You volunteer in ways that light you up. You explore new skills or revive old passions. You're not lonely. You're alive, fully, beautifully, quietly alive. Some of the most fulfilled people in their 70s, 80s, and beyond are not the ones with the busiest social lives, but the ones who have learned to befriend themselves. They smile without needing an audience. They enjoy their meals slowly. They rest without guilt. They wake up each day with a sense of calm that only comes from no longer needing to prove anything to anyone. And that, perhaps, is the final gift solitude brings: freedom from expectation. You're no longer trying to meet someone else's idea of what your life should look like. You get to create your own rhythm. If you want to stay in bed a little longer, you do. If you want to take a walk in the rain, you don't ask permission. You've earned the right to live authentically, and that's something no friendship can offer you unless it aligns with your truth. So let this be your reminder. Your worth is not tied to the number of people you talk to every day. It's in the wisdom you carry, the strength you've built, the peace you've created. It's in the quiet joy of your own company. You don't need to chase friendship to be whole. You already are whole. If someone walks into your life now and adds to your peace, that's a beautiful bonus, but it's not a requirement. because at this stage, you are no longer looking to fill a void. You're living from a place of fullness. And remember, you are not alone on this journey. Even if you're physically alone, there are millions of people walking this same path, reclaiming their joy, rediscovering themselves, and finally feeling free. If this message resonated with you, I truly invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might be the very encouragement someone else needs today. And if you haven't already, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're building a community here, a space for calm, for clarity, and for courage at every age. Here's to living your truth on your terms, with deep peace in your heart. No noise, no pressure, just you, becoming more of yourself every single day.